parables, um, and why Jesus used parables. And Jesus used parables because it really confused the Pharisees. Pharisees were so smart, they really couldn't discern what he was trying to say in those parables. So their intelligence, their holier than thou attitude, and even now we see Pharisees. Sometimes you go to church and you see somebody that's holier than thou and wants to be able to recite every scripture and all that, and they're there more for the hey, look at me aspect of it versus the Jesus, look at my heart aspect. And sometimes, good morning, Tanya. And sometimes when we see them and they're talking and trying to say all the things that they want people to hear versus all the things that's in their heart that God needs to listen to, or that they need to listen to God, they like to be kind of like the Pharisees and just uh, be proud of all the things that they can say and all the things that they have learned and all that, and they're not really talking from their heart. Um, so most people think Jesus told cute little moral stories, and that's not parable. What parables are? They were basically spiritual grenades. It was, yeah, it turns people off. These spiritual grenades were specially made and hurled at the Pharisees because it confused the heck out of them. So, um, one of the ones that we're going to do this morning is we're going to do the story of the Good Samaritan. And people think, oh, the Good Samaritan, they just thought, I never knew that the Good Samaritan meant from somebody from Samaria. And the Jews and the Samaritans did not like each other. The Jews hated them, and the Samaritans hated them right back at them. And the reason that the Jews hated them is the Samaritans kind of watered down the bloodline. If you were a Jew, you stayed with your tribe and you married within your tribe and all that. The Samaritans, not so much. They didn't, if they like somebody, love somebody, they're from a different tribe or from a different bloodline, they didn't care. So, but the Jews couldn't stand this. They thought that they were impure people. Um, and so one of the stories is the Good Samaritan. It's in Luke, and we're going to start at Luke 10:25 and read the story of the Good Samaritan this morning. The parable of the Good Samaritan. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit life? And all they were trying to do, inherit eternal life. Every time they talked to Jesus and they asked him a question, it was kind of like those people that like to get in our lives and they like to, hey, I have a serious question. Well, their question's not serious. Their question is to cause angst and to try to trip us up and things like that. So, what is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? So, we're going to start over. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he asked, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going from Jerusalem to Jericho when he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going by down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed on the other side. So too a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him, bandaged his wound, pouring oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expenses you may have. Which one of these three let me see here how I'm going to go. Yeah, which one of these three things do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robber? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise. So Jesus made what basically the Jews thought were enemies, the Samaritans, made him the hero. The priest and the Levite were religious leaders. The road to Jericho was nicknamed the Bloody Way, and that's because so many people had lost their life, so many people had been robbed and beaten up on there. And so it was really telling that the priest and the Levite just walked on by of how they thought of people. They didn't want to get involved. But the Samaritan, and that's where we get the Good Samaritan, the Samaritan showed up and showed out, and he took care of him, and even gave the innkeeper some extra money, and told him if there's anything else he needs, make sure you let me know and I will pay you. Now we're going to go to the parable of the prodigal son, and that's in Luke 15:11 through 32. And y'all kind of bear with me here. We're reading about, this morning, we're reading a couple of parables that Jesus told. And Jesus telling of the parables was more to keep the Pharisees off kilter. He spoke in more plain language and spoke in stories so that people could relate to him, the people he was trying to get to. He didn't care anything about getting the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Sanhedrins to follow him as much as he was trying to get the just the regular people, the regular Jews and the Gentiles to follow him. And it kind of come to find out that the Gentiles were more adept to following Jesus than his own bloodline, which was the Jews. So we're going to go to the prodigal son, Gospel of Luke 15:11 through 32. And Jesus is continuing on with different parables. And Jesus continued, there was a man who had two sons. The younger one said to his father, give me the share of the estate so he can divide his property between them. Not long after that, the youngest son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and he squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to the fields to feed his pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. I mean, that's pretty hungry. Good morning, Lisa. How are you? Good morning, everybody. We're reading parables, and just talking about why the parables were important, and who Jesus was trying to talk to. And the reason he spoke in parables is because the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Sanhedrins, they really couldn't grasp or wrap their hand around what he was trying to say because they were too smart. So he longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. And we're reading the story of the prodigal son, or the parable of the prodigal son. When he came to his senses, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? So he's like, even my father's slaves are eating well, and I'm sitting here trying to fight to eat what the pigs are eating. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. So he got up and went to his father. Good morning, Pablo. How are you? Good. So he went up. So he got up and went to his father, and that kind of had to be hard. It would have really been hard if he still had money. He probably never would have went if he still had money, but now he was destitute. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his sons, threw his arm around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I'm no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fatted calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, yeah, I know, right? And that's just the way our Father's going to tell us. He whatever we did, He's going to be celebrating. That's that I did one about Rocky. Whenever I come in and I walk in the door, he's jumping on top of me and just going crazy. And I feel like that's the way Jesus is going to be when we get to heaven and we've done the work that we need and we've had the faith and we're and like Amber Mosher says, her favorite line is, welcome my good and faithful, you've done well, my good and faithful servant. And I think that that's just the way he's going to be, the way dogs treat us when we come home. He's just going to be so happy. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him, "What's going on?" "Your brother has come," he replied, "and your father has killed the fatted calf because he has him back safe and sound." The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes comes home, you kill a fatted calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we have to celebrate and be glad because this brother of yours was dead and he is alive again. He was lost and now he's found." So see, so couple of facts here that says when he was asking for his inheritance early, it equals to him going, "You know what, Pops, I wish he was dead. I could get my inheritance." Um, the older brother is a picture of religious pride, and Jesus never tells us if the older brother repents too. So that's another thing. Um, are you more the younger brother or the older brother? So I don't know. I think I'm neither because I don't think I would have ever left and squandered everything. I don't know. Maybe I would have, and then come back. Maybe I'm more like the younger brother. I don't know. But the older brother, I don't think I could be like him at all. Okay, and the last one we're going to do is the parable of the mustard seed, and that's going to be in Matthew 13:31 through 32. And I went right past it. There it is. All right, Matthew 13:31 through 32. And here we go. And this is one of my favorite ones because with the rooted claim to fame, it's we're planting the seeds. And what some people don't realize, the mustard seed is the smallest seed. And they tell you if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you can move that mountain. What they don't tell you is it doesn't mean if you have faith this small. It means that if you have the faith and you plant that faith and it grows, a mustard seed grows so big, it's the biggest herb that there is. It grows so big that even the fowl of the air nest in it and find shelter. Also, it's an invasive plant, and the roots grow deep and the roots grow wide, and that's what they're saying. Your faith will grow so much that you can do anything, and so quickly that you can do anything with just this little tiny bit of faith. It will grow and expand and make everything uh, bigger and better, and you can do everything that you need to do. So, the parable of the mustard seed, he told them another parable. "The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it's the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches." He told them still another parable. "The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into her 60 pounds of flour until it worked all through the dough." Jesus spoke of these things in the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. "I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world." And so the mustard seed, I explained that to you. and putting the yeast in the dough. When you put yeast in the dough, what happens to the dough whenever it's about this big? You come back an hour and a half later, it's doubled or tripled in size. You punch it down, you cut it in two, you put it in two different loaf pans, and in another hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, you come back and they have doubled in size again. So that's the thing. You take something as simple as yeast, and it can double in size anything. So that's what he was trying to do. The mustard seed becomes huge, and the yeast putting it in the dough makes the dough and the bread much bigger and able to be separated. Um, So parables were designed to reveal truth to the hungry and hide it from the hard-hearted, which were the Pharisees. Um, so I think that the mustard seed parable, and there's another spot where it does have the mustard seed in there. That one and the lost sheep, I think those are two of my favorites. I don't know what y'all's favorite between those, between them, between all of them, between the mustard seed, the parable of the sower, the parable of the mustard seed, the prodigal son, what else, the lost sheep. I don't know which is y'all's favorite, but I think the lost sheep is my ultimate favorite because that's what I was, and I think some of us share that same belief. All right, so that's all that we have for this morning, and I'm going to the prodigal son. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. It gives you good lessons. But I think that's it for me this morning. I'm about to open up the shop. I want to thank you guys for coming by, and hopefully you can like and share the prodigal. Yep, I like that one too. But y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all around on TikTok. Bye.